Welcome back to my channel, guys, and welcome to today's video. On today's video, I'll be taking you guys through my picks of some sporting moments in this year that's about to end, 2024, and my predictions for some of the biggest sporting events to come in 2025. Let's get into it. So, starting with AFCON 2023 at the beginning of the year. This one was particularly interesting because I supposedly was supposed to be on ground in Cote d'Ivoire to cover AFCON, but due to a couple of reasons that did not materialize, so I got to watch AFCON from home. And I remember telling my friends before the start of the tournament that, I had no expectations of Nigeria, and I didn't expect us to go that far, And it sort of seemed like, well, when the tournament started, I was right, because we had a really shaky start against Equatorial Guinea, and Victor Osimhen missed a couple of big chances, but eventually we drew the game 1-1. Second game against the host Cote d'Ivoire, we managed to win the game with a penalty, 1-0, and then won the last game, and then we made it through the round of 16. And even at that, I was still not really impressed. I was still not moved. I was still telling my guys that I'm not really supporting this Super Eagles team because I've been disappointed so many times. So I'd rather not have my hopes up about what they could potentially achieve. And then, they beat not the best Cameroon side 2-0 in the round of 16. They beat a really strong Angola side 1-0 in quarterfinal. And then it came to the semi-final against Bafana of South Africa. Now, guys, here is where my opinion about Super Eagles started to change, because if you know the rivalry, I wouldn't even call it a rivalry, because beating South Africa more times than they beating us, but it's just some bad blood, and mostly that bad blood is mostly motivated by stuff that happens off the pitch. So there's some kind of bad blood between Nigeria and South Africa. So I started to change my opinion about the Super Eagles around that time, and I was like, oh man, I really want us to win. I couldn't bear us losing to South Africa, and luckily we won. It was a really tough match, went to extra time, we won on penalties, and that was it. And then we got to the final. So at this point now, we are in the final. So I was like, I have no choice but to support them. I mean, initially I didn't think they'll get this far and all, but they've gotten to the final. We might as well win the entire thing, But as fate will have it, we couldn't win. We scored first, but eventually we succumbed to the pressure of the Ivorians. They had a really, really great comeback moments, considering how disastrous that group stage performance was. They sacked the manager, brought in an interim manager, everything just changed for them in a flash, and they won. They beat us in the final. So I think in the aftermath of that tournament, some people were questioning the decisions of the coach, Jose Peseiro. It was like, oh, we're playing too defensively, and if we had taken the game to the Ivorians in the final, we would have won that game. And I really, really disagree with those people, because I still tell them what I've said so many times before, that I felt like that game, in fact, the entire tournament, the thing that got us that far was Jose Peseiro's tactics. I've seen the Super Eagles try to play attacking in tournaments in the past, say, 5 years, the past 2 or 3 AFCONs, and it doesn't really click, So I think that approach that Peseiro, we didn't score a lot, but we also didn't concede a lot, So I think that was the right approach. And people are only talking because we didn't come back home with the AFCON trophy. Anyways, we came second, and that was it. Overall, it was a great AFCON. We've not gotten to the AFCON final in a while, and we almost won it. We were disappointed, but we're really proud of the boys. So that's that about AFCON 2023. Now, moving on to Euro 2024 in the summer. Now, when the Euros came around, like many times, I did not have a favorite, and this time was no different. I did not really have a favorite, but I think as the knockout stages came by, I started to support Spain and Lamine Yamal, because I'm a Barca fan. If you know me, Kool forever, about 14 years now, been supporting the club. I have no plans of changing that. So, supporting Barca, obviously, Lamine, Pedri, a few Barca boys in the Spain squad, Fermin, Lopez, and So, Lamine was 16 at the time the Euros came around, and then eventually he just grew into that tournament and kept on getting better and better. And oh my word, what a fantastic goal against France in the semi-final to bring Spain level. That was where, I think his tournament peaked, and it was so poetic that, he did it on such a big stage, in front of Adrian Rabiot, by the way, who said something about Lamine in the press conference before the game, So it was really fantastic, and then they got to the final and they won against a really good England team, I must say. So I think eventually I did not have a favorite for Euro 2024, but as Spain progressed, I sort of started liking their style of play. I thought it was really fluent, and obviously I wanted some of my Barca boys in the squad to win. So yeah, they did really well. Lamine celebrated his 17th birthday over the course of the tournament and became a Euro winner at 17, one young player of the tournament. It was really, really fantastic for me. I was so proud of what he could achieve at that age, and it's so easy to say the next Messi. Well, I wouldn't call him the next Messi, but you can't blame Barca fans who think so. The boy is good. Anyways, moving on to, this is a bit of a somber note because Paris 2024, Team Nigeria in particular, this one was it's nothing that we've not seen before. So basically, Team Nigeria went as so my Nigerian audience watching this, you already know this. Team Nigeria went to Paris 2024, came back with 0 medals. And apparently we heard that the budget for the games was about 12 billion naira to either the sports ministry, the Nigerian Olympic Committee, and a couple of other bodies. So 12 billion was invested in these games, at least on paper. That's what we heard. And then nothing. We came back home with nothing. And not just that, we faced, as a country, we faced embarrassment in different areas. There were a lot of miscommunication about some things. The flag bearers on the opening ceremony day, some people could not get on the boats. I think the Tigers team, so many different things were just happening. Favor Ofili went on X to rant about how the AFN and NOC were complicit in the omission of her name in the 100, I think, and 200 meters, and she couldn't compete. And she was really one of our brightest chances of winning a medal at Paris 2024. So things were just going wrong. Some athletes were saying, oh, their kits were oversized. Just different, stories here and there. But I would say there were some highlights and really good highlights. For me, in particular, the Tigers, our female basketball team, who against so many odds made it to the Olympic Games and, performed fantastic and only came up short against, the eventual winners and the best female basketball team in the world, the USA. So we don't hold anything against them on that loss because, the USA are by far better than the Tigers, but they still held their own against the USA. It was not a blowout like it used to be back in the day. So I was really impressed. I actually wrote an article about the Tigers team. I documented their journey from the appointment of Rena Wakama, the coach, and when she won the FIBA Afro Basket Women's Championships, and then the qualification process and all the things they had to go through, how the federation did not really support them, how the people in the MBBF thought Rena Wakama was not good enough, So I wrote an article, and I'm going to include the link to that article in the description of this video. I basically just lauded their efforts, and talked about what makes the team tick and what made them achieve what they did at Paris 2024. A couple of other Super Falcons. Well, I did support the Super Falcons. I tell my friends that the Super Falcons are the only national team that I really root for right now, and that's because anything that the Super Eagles, any problem the Super Eagles face in the execution of their duties, Super Falcons face times 10 of it, so I feel more sympathetic with their situation, So I was rooting for the Super Falcons at Paris 2024, but unfortunately they lost all 3 games. I did think, based on their performance at the FIFA Women's World Cup 2023, they were going to, really, because they stood up to a couple of big teams. So I had the feeling that, it was going to be similar, but, they lost to Spain, to Brazil, to Japan, and they crashed out in the group stage. But, those teams are all teams that are highly ranked, and well, it is what it is. I expected more from them, but sadly they couldn't deliver. They couldn't go beyond the group stage. I think for other sports, Nigeria fell short in the table tennis, in the wrestling. So I think in the long jump, with some of our brightest medal prospects. So it was not really, we kept on waiting, who will bring Nigeria's first medal, but it never came. And, the whole contingent came back to the country with no medal. Questions have to be asked. Heads should roll, but knowing Nigeria, everybody who has followed Nigerian sports for a while knows that nothing will happen. All the issues that happened, even with one of our cyclists, I think her name is Divine or something, she couldn't get the required specific bicycle for our competition. I think a German team or so, a German cycling club, I think, had to lend her a bicycle, and all of that. There's just so many issues around Team Nigeria, and even some athletes who had dual nationality but chose to represent Nigeria. They kept, one of them basically went to a social media and said, it's not a coincidence why other countries that win so many medals win it, because they put in the work and Nigeria doesn't. So, these things, we don't get it right, and there's no way we attract talents. People, for example, people who have dual nationalities, there's no way we attract them to come here and represent us if we don't get this thing right. So I also wrote an article about this Nigeria's failure to come back with any medal from Paris 2024. I would also include the link to that article in the description. Okay, so going away from Paris 2024 and Team Nigeria, I want to go on to the best player controversy in 2024. Now, I know a lot of you are very heated about this. And, okay, so basically, let me break it down. So people don't know, who don't know enough about this. So as of now, there are majorly 2 awards for the best players in football. The first one is the Ballon d'Or, and the second is the FIFA Best. Obviously, FIFA is the World Football Governing Body, so I'm sure a lot of people are familiar with FIFA. So now, the Ballon d'Or, which is the Ballon d'Or Best Male and Female Player, is basically decided by 100 journalists of the top 100 ranked footballing nations worldwide. Now, the Ballon d'Or basically picked Rodri as the best player in 2024. And Rodri, went on, I think, so many games unbeaten. He totaled, up to 20 goals and assists for a defensive midfielder. He was the best in his position as a defensive midfielder in 2024, won the Euros, won the Premier League, won the UEFA Super Cup, won the FIFA Club, what is now known as the FIFA Intercontinental Cup, because it's no longer FIFA Club Cup, is now a 4-year thing. But he basically won that trophy in that year, or in the time frame that the award considers. And he was really fantastic, especially for Spain as well. Won the best player of tournament in the Euros. So now, there were 2 other people who were the front runners for the Ballon d'Or. That's Vinicius Jr. and Jude Bellingham, both of Real Madrid. Vinicius Jr. also had a fantastic season. His numbers was one of the problem now. Vinicius had a time, I think, about 2 months spell where he was injured, or 2 to 3 months, and then he picked up form towards the end of the season, to latter stages of the Champions League. He played really well. There was Jude Bellingham, who was, for me, and I say this and I tell people, the most consistent Real Madrid player in the entire season. He was voted the La Liga player of the season. He scored, I think, close to 20 goals in La Liga in his first season. Now, Vinicius also did perform well, but his numbers were also not good enough. And I also want to add another context now. 2024, there were so many major international football tournaments. There was AFCON, there was the Asian Cup, there was Copa America, there was the Euros. Now, Vinicius and Brazil went to Copa America. I think they made it out of the group stage. Vinicius scored 2 goals, but he scored those 2 goals in one match. And then in the other matches, he basically ghosted. Don't say because I'm a Barca fan. You can go check the stats, the numbers of his other matches. I don't think even in the other matches, I don't think he played more than one shot in all the other matches combined. So he really just performed well in one game. So the other matches, basically the long and short of Vinicius' Copa America with Brazil was that it was not good enough. And that was one of the things I feel personally that worked against him in the decision of the journalist. Now, it was even more so the fact that in that same year, the other 2 front runners for the award, Rodri and Bellingham, went respectively, got to the final of their own international tournament, which was the Euros. And I told people, I said it in the article. Also, I wrote an article about this, by the way. I said it in the article. I told people this, that if England had won that final over Spain, Bellingham would have won it. And I think for me, that was the deciding factor, because I think also people who say maybe Vinicius should have won, I also try to tell them that, maybe they're also so used to seeing forwards win the award that we tend to forget that you have to have a really, really good season to win the Ballon d'Or and not just win the Champions League. Obviously, the Champions League is also, a really, really prestigious tournament, which I agree should have a huge impact on it. But I also think it's more of a modern day thing, because I saw a very shocking statistic, I think from a particular year in the 90s to like 2006, that basically said for like that 10 or 15 year span, the Ballon d'Or winner was not from a Champions League winning team. So people who, say the Champions League should have a huge impact on the Ballon d'Or winner are correct, yes, but it's not always been like that. I just want them to take note of that. Anyway, so Vinicius won, Rodri won the Ballon d'Or, but I do think that people reacted. People who say it was obvious that Vinicius should have won, I have an issue with that, in the sense that, I think, especially, and if for Real Madrid fans, I also think that Bellingham was slighted, because, again, I'm going to repeat this, Bellingham was the best player for Real Madrid last season. Quote me anywhere. Bellingham should have won that Ballon d'Or if a Real Madrid player was going to win. But what I noticed was that in the weeks leading up to the tournament, okay, let's even leave that aside for now. Let's go back to the months leading up to, let's say, 6 months. I saw a lot of posts from Madrid fans, big Madrid supporters on social media, basically saying, the current rankings for the Ballon d'Or, this is how they are. And then Bellingham was leading a lot of those, in fact, most of those rankings. And Vinicius was not always in top 3. So I think they might not agree that now, but I think a lot of them know in their deepest of hearts that Vinicius was not a front runner for the Ballon d'Or until like 3 months to the end of the season, which is fine, right? But again, I'm going to say that I was not really happy with the way Madrid, approached the situation, in the sense that, people claimed there was a robbery. Associates of Vinicius national team, said this and that. There's so many things. Obviously, they omitted the awards. There was nobody from Real Madrid contingent at the awards. I do think that Bellingham somewhere might be feeling some type of way, because it's almost like he was, for me, the best player last season for Madrid. And then everybody's just talking about Vinicius, and it's like, where am I in all of this? So, and then, yeah, it was, I think a couple of things worked for Rodri, and Rodri was really consistent for the whole of last season. And if you go and look at the voting results, for people who say it was clear that maybe Vinicius should have won or somebody, the voting results were really, really close. So I think, to me, this was probably the Ballon d'Or, the particular Ballon d'Or award, where even for me, I do feel like Rodri was a deserving winner, which is what I said in my article. But, it was really, really, really tight. And I don't think it was really clear as people say it was. So, to round that up, I'm going to say on the Ballon d'Or, I think people will have their opinions at the end of the day. But for me, I think if a Madrid player was supposed to win it, it was supposed to be Bellingham. Anyways, so moving on now. Now, Rodri won the Ballon d'Or, which is, like I said earlier, strictly decided by journalists. Now, the FIFA Best Award came around. And also, something to note, the FIFA Best and the Ballon d'Or used to be a collaboration some years ago, but they split up, and now they are now two different awards. It used to be named the FIFA Ballon d'Or. So now, the FIFA Best Award came around. Now, this one is, the voting process is a bit, it encompasses more stakeholders in the game. Now, there's fans voting, there's journalists voting, there's captains and coaches of national teams voting. And each category of the vote accounts for 25%. So when you add 25% of the 4 categories each, it makes 100. So now this award went to Vinicius Jr. I also think it was deserved. It's in the same way I feel like Rodri was deserving. So again, I think where I can find common ground on this is there is no, like, unlike some people might say, or some people associated with Real Madrid or fans of Real Madrid, I don't think there's such a clear winner of who the best player, or I don't think there's such a clear answer to who, if you ask me who was the best player, forget the awards right now, who was the best player in 2023-2024 season. I do not think that there is a clear answer to that question, and that is why this. I also want people to remember that as far as awards go, there will always be controversy. There has always been controversy. So this is how awards are basically. One person won the Ballon d'Or, one person won the FIFA Best, 2 different people. Bellingham, I don't know where it falls in all of this, but still, I think if a Real Madrid player should have won it, it should have been Jude Bellingham. And my article on the Ballon d'Or about Rodri being a deserving winner, I would also add to the description of this video. So now we move on to, the only topic outside of football on this list in 2024, and this is my last topic for 2024, the boxing bouts, the heavyweight boxing bouts between Tyson Fury and Oleksandr Usyk. Now, this one was a big one because, they were trying to unify the heavyweight belt. Tyson Fury had said so much about Oleksandr Usyk, saying, oh, he's big in Ukraine. Doesn't mean, just basically trash talking and trying to downgrade the character that is Oleksandr Usyk, and saying, the Tyson Fury said a lot of things, said, the heavyweight boxing champion should be in the US or in the UK. So it just basically said, and this was about close to 2 years ago, and then they eventually got to fight. And then in the first fight, it was a really good fight. It went the full 12 rounds. There was a point, I think, in the 7th or 8th round where I think certain people felt like Tyson Fury, Oleksandr Usyk should have been awarded a TKO victory. But anyways, at the end of the day, Oleksandr Usyk won the bout on a unanimous decision on points. I think this was earlier in the year, and then there was a rematch in the contracts, and then they got to fight again in December of this year. of 2024, by the way. And I think I want to take you guys back to the aftermath of the first fight. While they were in the ring, Tyson Fury said, he thought he won, and Oleksandr Usyk's country is at war, and people are having sympathy and all of that stuff. So he said he's going to win the rematch. He said so many things, and then came to the rematch. Fight went the full 12 rounds again. Oleksandr Usyk won again, and now this guy he has cemented, not even with this fight. He is already a boxing Hall of Famer way before now. He has beaten Anthony Joshua twice, now beaten Tyson Fury twice, undefeated at cruiserweight, undefeated at heavyweight. For me, this is why I think, he is going to be champion for a long time. For a heavyweight, his cardio is insane. And, he is the typical definition of what a boxer should be. He throws punches, he can hurt you, he can dodge, he can weave, he has really good footwork. And right now, nobody in the heavyweight category has an answer to the problem that is Oleksandr Usyk. He is just beyond whatever they can fathom. So that was also a really, I'm getting more into boxing these days. I've always been into boxing, but not as much as I am right now. So I'm getting more into boxing these days. And that's why that particular boxing event is on my list of my picks of some of the highlights of the sports event of 2024 for me. So that's about 2024. It was a really good year in sports. It was a really entertaining year. And yeah, I was entertained. So now we are going to 2025. Now I'm going to make predictions for a couple of things and give my opinion on some other things. Now we are starting with La Liga. Okay, so as a Barca fan, like I've said earlier in this video, it was so easy for me to think we're going to win the league. When the season started, we're blowing away all the teams, scoring so many goals, 4-0, 5-0, 5-1, 7-0, we're beating teams by halftime, But it got to November, December, and then, our foil finished. We started to lose games, started to draw games. I think in La Liga, we've won like maybe 1 or 2 in past 7 or so, and we're no longer in top spots. We lost to Atletico. Atletico is now top. So as it is now, I don't really know who's going to win La Liga. It's still very much a 3-horse race. I do think, though, that we're going to come back really strong in the new year. And also, all of our injured players, most of our injured players are back. I think apart from Marc Bernal and Marc-Andre ter Stegen, our goalkeeper, I think every other injury issue is over. So we're coming back stronger in the new year. Atletico Madrid, Real Madrid, watch out for us. We are winning La Liga this year. I'm not going to say more than that. No predictions on anything, just straight to the point. Barcelona is winning La Liga. Quote me at the end of the season. In Serie A, I would say it's really interesting. Serie A has gotten so competitive of late. It's insane what is going on. I would say, though, Napoli is doing well. Atalanta has gone top of the league, and I'm very much in particular happy about that. Obviously, because of our guy Ademola Lookman, who won the African Best Player of the Year award in 2024. And I do think that he's very likely to win it again. But now there's Mohamed Salah having a really good season at Liga. In fact, the best season of his life. I think as of now, Mohamed Salah is the greatest threat to Ademola Lookman winning the CAF African Player of the Year back to back. So I think if Atalanta are having a really good run right now, I think if they don't have too many injury issues, Lookman is just going from strength to strength. Napoli at the start of the season, I thought they were going to be the people who, win it. Antonio Conte, when he's coaching a team that is not playing in Europe, they tend to go on these runs, but they falter, they beat. So I say Atalanta to take the Serie A title. Okay, now coming to our own league, the Nigerian Premier Football League. Now, I think there are three teams in the running. I think Remo Stars, they're really doing good. Their coach, Daniel Ogumodede, also known as Ijabol, they're doing really, really good. I am a bit worried though for when their coach goes for all these national team duties with the Super Eagles and the home based Super Eagles and all of that, but they're still, in the contention. There's obviously Rangers, also with a brilliant coach, Fidelis Ilechukwu, also, having some stints with the Super Eagles and stuff, so I think Enyimba are always there as the biggest team in Nigeria, in West Africa. They're always there, but this season they faltered and they've played some games on the continent that have not really gone their way, and in the NPFL they're trying to climb up the table, but it's not. But I would never rule out Enyimba, of course. So I think Remo Stars, Enugu Rangers, and Enyimba for me will be the top 3 teams at the end of the season. And who do I think is going to win the league? I'm going to go out on a whim and say Remo Stars are going to be champions of the NPFL 2024-2025. Now let's go to the Bundesliga. The Bundesliga, I think Bayern are currently top. Leverkusen, they're still there, still in the contention, but obviously not as good as last season. I'm going to tip. I don't know about the Bundesliga as much as I do about some other popular leagues. So I'm going to say Bayern would get back the trophy. Bayern will be champions of the Bundesliga this season. For the UCL, now this is a really interesting one. This new format, it has really changed. It has really, at the start I was against, not necessarily, not 100% against. I was just against the manner in which it came about, especially in relation to the Super League and stuff. But I must say, I'm becoming a believer of this new format. Some things have kind of changed. Some big teams are really struggling, and I have to wonder, if this was last season's format, where 3 teams in a group, home and away, maybe these big teams will not be in so much trouble. But you see PSG right now, where PSG are. if the UCL groups league phase, as they call it now, ends today, PSG are going to be they're going to be knocked out. Man City is in the playoff spots. Some big teams, I think Juventus, Real Madrid. There's some dark horses in the top 8. I think Brest is there, and this is like their first Brest of Ligue 1 in France. This is like their first season, and they've surprised a lot of people. I really can't say this is a really tough one. Obviously, I have to tip I have to support my team, Barcelona, to win it. We've not won it since 2015. It's going close to 10 years now. I for one would not want us to celebrate a decade of not winning the UCL. In my lifetime, we've not gone that far without winning. This is the longest drought we've gone without winning the UCL. So it's been a long time, and I do think Hansi Flick knows what it takes to win the UCL. When he won it with Bayern, it was his first season, and he demolished so many teams in high scoring games that season on the way to winning that trophy. So I've also seen signs, we've come against some really tough opposition. We've come against Bayern, which are always a strong team to play. And we've done well. So I do think I have to tip us to win. But if I would say another team to win, I would say Liverpool. They're having a really, really good season, and they are currently at the top of the table. Mo Salah is in the form of his life, and Slot seems to get everything right at the moment. So I would say Liverpool other than Barcelona. Water break. All right, so let's go to that's that about the UCL. Now let's go to the Club World Cup. Now this is something that is going to happen in summer of 2025. which is an interesting one because, there's been a lot of talk, a lot of controversy surrounding this tournament. The Club World Cup, FIFA has basically turned it into a 4-year tournament, expanding, making it bigger, more, I think 32 teams now. And then what used to be known as the Club World Cup before is now the Intercontinental Cup, which the last edition was played very recently. Real Madrid won in Qatar. So I do have, obviously, like many other football fans, I do have concerns, especially that this is coming in a time when footballers, more high-profile footballers, are starting to complain about the fixture congestion and so many things. And now players are going to have to go to so many teams are going to have to go to the US to play. And then there's also the issue of football pitches in the US. Most of, probably even all of their pitches are not very soccer friendly, soccer as they call it over there. And so, I've seen a couple of things in the past, about people playing on those pitches and what they're going to do, to maybe revamp the pitches in preparation for the World Cup in 2026. That's also a concern. I don't know. I also heard, media are not really bidding as much for this tournament as they probably should. So it's almost like the interest on the FIFA Club World Cup is not as big as FIFA thought it would. Maybe over time it will change in the months leading to the summer of the tournament, but FIFA have not been able to successfully convince everyone about the allure, so to say, of this tournament. So yeah, that's it for the FIFA for the issues. There's a couple of issues, congestion and all of that. But now it's going to be played every 4 years. So players going off to the US after a really long season to play very competitive tournaments, well, I think enough of the cons. For the pros, I would say more teams get to participate, and, there's a couple of teams from Africa, Mamelodi Sundowns, Al Ahly, a couple of teams that have been consistent on the continent for a while. Teams from South America, Corinthians, Sao Paulo, I think Fluminense. In North America, there's Inter Miami, I think Seattle Sounders, I'm not sure. And in Europe, obviously, there's so many clubs, more of the clubs are from Europe: Real Madrid, Juventus, Chelsea, Manchester City, Atletico Madrid, PSG. There's so many European clubs. So as far as that goes, to give my prediction on who I think will win, I would say is obviously the European teams should dominate, but also because of the nature of this tournament, it's longer now. It's not like in the past when, what used to be the FIFA Club World Cup in the past was basically, they'll play like the first and second rounds, and then the European teams will come because of their own really busy season, will come and join from like maybe the third round, and then they basically just play one match, and then the semi-final and then the final, and they win as usual most of the time. So this time now everybody starts from the group stage, so which is going to be a bit strange to the European teams. But I think for me, the European team will most likely win, but it will not be as easy as they used to find like what used to be the FIFA Club World Cups of the past. But the team that maybe outside of the European teams, or maybe among the European teams that I think would win, I can't really point to anyone in particular because this is the first of its kind. But I would say the team that can adapt to the US the best, the American pitches and maybe the weather of that time, would be the one to lift the maiden edition of the Club World Cup 2025. So let's go to the Women's AFCON, also in the summer. Now, the Women's AFCON will be hosted in Morocco 2025. And this tournament, obviously, is 12 teams, because women's football in Africa is still developing, so there cannot be as many teams as the men's tournaments right now. Over the years, the more teams would make up the competition. Nigeria obviously is a favorite. We've won the tournament, I think, about 9 times. So we are expected to win. I want us to win. We didn't win the last one. South Africa won and they beat us on the way to winning. So Morocco obviously are also, let's even go away a little bit from the women's AFCON right now. Morocco are doing a lot of things right on the continent. They're investing and it's showing, they got to the semi-final of the 2022 FIFA World Cup. They hosted the last women's AFCON. They hosted the last 2 CAF awards. They're hosting this women's AFCON. They're going to host the men's AFCON. They're hosting so many things. I think they're hosting the women's under 17 FIFA World Cup as well. I think for the next 5 editions. Just so many things they are getting right. And obviously proximity to Europe is helping as well. But they're getting so many things right in terms of infrastructure and a couple of things. So yeah, so let me come back to the women's AFCON, and that's why they were able to get the hosting right to this one as well. As for that, I think in Africa right now, it's probably 4 teams that are quite strong that usually would go to like major tournament. That's Nigeria, South Africa, Morocco, and Zambia, which is Barbara Banda, the current CAF Women's Player of the Year and national team. So as far as that goes, I think obviously there's not much to say. Nigeria to win. We are still by far, okay, maybe not by far, but significant, by significant amounts, the best team in Africa. So there's not much to say. Nigeria to win, except we don't get some things right. I don't want to hear that we did not win this tournament. CAF Women's AFCON. Please, let's bring back this trophy, Super Falcons. We lost the last one. South Africa won. South Africa are a good team, obviously, but it's time to get back our trophy. And Morocco, I think, will also do really well. Their women's football is also really coming up. Obviously, they're investing. They're getting things right. So Morocco, I think Nigeria will win. We are kind of hungry again because I feel like at that last women's AFCON, because we had won this women, maybe got to a point where we did not have enough motivation. But now that we knew that we did not win the last one, so we want to win this one. So Nigeria to win, maybe South Africa, Morocco will be South Africa, Morocco, and Zambia will be the remaining teams in the last 4, I guess. Yeah. So that's that about the women's AFCON 2025. Now we are going to something that will also be in 2025 but will extend to 2026, which is something I find really difficult to understand, and that is the AFCON 2025. That's the men now. Morocco again, like I said, they're getting so many things right. They got to host this one, and I'm a bit confused. CAF gave a couple of reasons as to why this tournament is going to start in December, middle of this, I think 21st December, and end 18th January. And I find that hard because, obviously, this is not the first time. Don't get me wrong. This is not the first time I'm seeing tournament held in AFCON has been held in January for so long. The World Cup, the most recent World Cup, was held in December. But now this is different because this one is going to start in December and cross over into January. So that means by Christmas, players will be in camp. Maybe there will not be matches on Christmas Day and maybe on Boxing Day. I don't know. There will not be matches probably on New Year Day. Maybe a couple of those days, there will not be matches. I don't know how they are going to do it. But it's just strange to me. Maybe it will definitely be entertaining, and obviously it will be a new experience to see a tournament, watching a tournament during Christmas, during New Year, and not just any tournament, because the Premier League, does go on during Christmas and New Year, but this one, is an international tournament. This is the first time this has ever happened. So I do feel like CAF, maybe CAF could have found better timing, but also I think I did read more on this topic and I found out that, the new UCL format now, teams get to play at least 2 more games. So teams who are in the UCL that have African players, if they were playing in January, it would also be more of an issue. So just a couple of things, maybe I should cut CAF some slack anyways. But yeah, also in that part of Africa, the summertime is really, really hot, right? And also weather issues have been one of the reasons why AFCON has been held in January. In a lot of countries, their summertime is very rainy. So I think in January in Morocco it will be a lot cooler. So I think CAF considered a couple of factors and decided to host it at that time. So, well, I hope the tournament will be interesting to watch, and I hope, of course, I'm going to be more optimistic here now about Super Eagles. I think we have a really good team at the moment, and we're building something great. Yeah, well, a lot can still happen over 1 year, because this tournament is literally in like a year's time, basically at the end of December. So I don't know, but I think if the Super Eagles do well going into the World Cup qualifiers resuming in March, which, by the way, they are really, really low on the table, and they've not won any in 4 games. They've not won any game in the 4 matches played so far against teams we should normally be winning. If they do well in that, I think they'll take that momentum going into, if they get to qualify for the World Cup, I think they'll take that momentum going into AFCON 2025 and do really well. As for who would win it, I think that a North African team will get to the final, just like in 2019 in Egypt. I think when AFCON is played, I think there's this thing about AFCON and the regions is played. When AFCON is played in North Africa, the North African teams tend to get to the final, or maybe at least 2 North African teams get to the semi-final. Like in AFCON, in AFCON 2019, Algeria got to the final. I think, yeah. So, but in Cameroon and in Cote d'Ivoire, North African teams, a couple of them didn't really do that well. So I think a North African team will get to the final. I don't know who would win. I just want Nigeria to win. So that's about that, and that's the last one on my list of my picks for predictions for sporting event 2025. Thank you so much for watching this video. This was basically a little recap of 2024, some picks of my moments in 2024, and a prediction of things to come in 2025. Let me know if you enjoyed this video, and let me know in the comments what you think about some of the things I've said. If you agree, if you disagree, let me know, express your views. Don't forget to like this video, comment on this video, share this video, and subscribe to my channel. I'll be bringing in more content like this, analyzing some sporting topics, events, covering events, and doing all of that. Thank you very much, and I'll see you in my next video.